What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Dean, and today we're going to be talking all things Border-Gavaskar Trophy. I'm going to give my predictions for the series between Australia and India, which is kicking off tomorrow, the first test in Perth. We haven't got the teams yet at the time of recording. Maybe they release them a little bit later on today, but they will probably come out. Australia's 11 is pretty much known. India's 11 is a bit up in the air. They haven't really played too much cricket going into this outside of the A game and a sort of an intra-squad game, which I don't think was really broadcast anywhere. So we're going to kick it off and just talk about a few of the facts of the series to begin. So this is a massive series for a few reasons. The first one is that this is the first time this is a 5-test series for the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. And that is important because the last few times they have played, India have won 2-1 in the last 4-test series. In the last 4 series, in fact, they have won 2-1, whether that's been in Australia or in India. Australia haven't won a series since 2014-15. That is 10 years ago now. We're now in 2024-25, this next series. Australia won that 2-0. There was a couple of draws in there as well. But India have held it for a long period of time. Australia will be keen to do that and win it back in Australia in a 5-test saga, which I think is going to be very important and pivotal to how this all plays out. Now, let's take a look at the Australian 11 because this is pretty well known by now if you haven't already worked it out. The only real change that will be in this squad is Nathan McSweeney will come in for Cameron Green, who is obviously out for the summer with a back injury. Cameron Green normally plays down the order, but Steve Smith will be moving back to his traditional spot at 4. McSweeney at 1. He'll open with Khawaja. Then you'll have Labuschagne and Smith. Head at 5. Mitch Marsh, who is the most in-form Australian test batsman, if you like. He has been absolutely riveting. I got some stats here because I had a look. Since his return, he's averaged 46.9. That was in the 3rd Ashes Test match last year, and he's been terrific since then. Now, we'll take a quick look at the Indian team, or at least what my predicted 11 is. We don't know their team yet, but this is how we've got it shaping up. Obviously, this first test match, you've got Rahul and Jaiswal to open the batting. Obviously, Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill out for this one. We expect them to both be back, or we expect at least Rohit Sharma to be back for the second test. Whether Shubman Gill is also back is to be determined. Then you've got Devdutt Padigal, most likely to be there at 3, Virat Kohli at 4, Rishabh Pant at 5, Jarrell at 6 has been sort of a bolter here to come into this side. Same with Nitish Kumar Reddy. We expect him to play. Then I think Ravi Ashwin will keep his spot there over Jadeja. And then Akashdeep will join Bumrah and Siraj as sort of the frontline seamers there for India. So that is my predicted 11 within the two sides. And I think that is probably where we sort of sit at this series going into it is, obviously there's a few questions that both sides and lineups have going into this series. And the first one is obviously for Australia is how will Nathan McSweeney perform at the top of the order? The reason that is such a big question is because the rest of the order is pretty settled. As obviously as we look through it, you've got Khawaja, Labuschagne, Smith, Head and Marsh who have been in that squad for a while. Same with Carey, I guess, as the keeper batsman. They have had such a quality performing time for Australia over a longevity that makes them, stalwarts of that test side. So McSweeney coming in, we don't expect the world of him. He doesn't need to score hundreds every match. He just needs to be given the opportunity to bat at his best, and if he scores 20 or like sort of 30 to 40 runs an innings, that would be absolutely perfect. Help Khawaja see out the new ball. We know Khawaja faces lots and lots of balls in Test cricket, so I think that is the key for McSweeney in this series. But with such a settled side for Australia, can they cover if they were to have injuries? We saw in that Ashes series back in 23, Nathan Lyon going down after the second test, and Todd Murphy came in, filled the void a little bit, but probably wasn't the output that they were hoping for from him. Obviously, he's not the same off-spinner as Nathan Lyon, but hopefully he can continue to develop as the future off-spinner for Australia. Same if a fast bowler goes down, you've got Scotty Boland to come in there. Michael Neser also a potential option. I think he's got a hamstring injury at the moment, but he could be right for, let's say, the second or the third test should an injury occur and he need to slot into someone's position there as the all-rounder. And if we do lose a batsman, Josh Inglis is also like right there on the sidelines as a quality player. So I think all of Australia actually does have the depth in this series that they would be hoping for to be able to cover should an injury occur to one of their, playing their first choice 11. As for India, well, the biggest question for them is, can they find their settled lineup? Obviously, with Sharma and Gill to come back into the team, is that going to disrupt potentially if they shift the batting order? Let's say their openers do significantly well in this first test match. Does that mean that you're potentially taking someone out who is in form for the rest of the series? Obviously, you always want to bring in the best possible players. So if you do that, how settled will the team be going through the series if there are significant changes throughout? Obviously, there's always a question of Jadeja or Ashwin, or do they play Washington Sundar as well, especially in Perth, on what is going to be quite a quick wicket that we have come to know over the period of time. So I think there is a few question marks over the Indian side in terms of how they perform, and especially how they bounce back after that series defeat, 3-0 against New Zealand at home. So going to be a tricky task for the Indian side, I think, over this next little period. But as we know, they have performed in Australia in recent times. I think the wickets do suit the style of cricket that they have been playing, and I think you'd be very foolish to ride them off this early. This is also massive for the World Test Championship final. Obviously, both these teams sitting first and second, Australia and India respectively. But there is 3 teams that are sort of coming for that second spot if there is a major slip-up in this series. Let's say India win it 4-1. Australia probably unlikely then to make the World Test Championship final. I think Sri Lanka, South Africa even, and New Zealand are coming very hard for that second position. And I think whoever wins this series is obviously a box seat to make the WTC final. But it's who could be that next best team in there. And there is a bit of history there as well. Australia beating India last time in the World Test Championship final. India probably wanting a little bit of redemption. And Australia obviously wanting to get back the Border-Gavaskar trophy that they haven't won for 10 years. So, without further ado, let's get into the actual predictions of what I think is going to happen and why it's going to happen. The first one I have is Jasprit Bumrah will be the leading wicket taker in the series. Obviously, I think he's the best pace bowler in the world outside of Pat Cummins. He's definitely the best white ball cricketer in the world. And I think in Australia, especially on the fast wickets of Perth, the day-night over in Adelaide, and even the MCG we've seen has been significantly better for pace over the last few years. I think he's going to be a real challenging bowler for the Australians to face up against. And when I'm watching as a fan, every time Bumrah comes in to bowl, I think he's going to take a wicket almost every delivery. So I think he's going to put the Australians under the most pressure, and I think he will lead the wickets in this series. As for the runs, this is probably a bit of an outside chance, but I'm going for Usman Khawaja. Now, the reason I'm going for this is, even though he is at the top of the order, obviously going to face a lot of the new ball, going to be very difficult for him to bat. I think he's someone who is going to thrive in this series. I think that he will take ownership, especially with Nathan McSweeney as his new opening partner. I think he's going to do his best to sort of lead from the front at the top of the order, and I think Khawaja will be the leading run scorer throughout. Obviously, India have a couple of guys who are going to be chopping and changing through the series, but, there's obviously plenty of options there with Rishabh Pant, even Travis Head if he plays well, Mitch Marsh, depending on how all the middle order goes. There are options everywhere. So many people you could choose for this. You could throw a blanket over all of them. Probably anyone, honestly, in the top 6 for Australia or probably India could be the top leading run scorer in this series. It is that good quality amongst the teams. And with that in mind, I think Usman Khawaja is going to be the player of the series because of I think it will be difficult to score runs because both teams have such good bowling lineups that it is going to be hard to score runs. So I've got him there as my player of the series in an Australian winning series. I've got them winning the series 3-2, and I want to break it down test by test as to the significance of how I think that's going to occur. So I think Australia will win in Perth. It's obviously a fast, bouncy wicket. That's the first test. India missing their openers. Almost a given that will probably be the difference in class in the two sides in that first test. Next test up is in Adelaide. I think Australia win that as well. I think they'll be 2-0 up. They have been very successful in day-night tests. The only one they lost was to the West Indies last year off the Shamar Joseph spell, which tore the Gabba apart and really destroyed Australia's perfect day-night record prior to that. So that is obviously going to be the key test for Australia. If they can win in Perth and in Adelaide, they're 2-0 up. A lot less pressure on them. India will have to reverse sweep from there to be able to win the series from that position. Then we go to Brisbane, which I think probably India win in Brisbane. I think the Gabba, they've obviously beaten Australia there a couple of times. They've broken down the Gabba fortress of Australia. and they will, sort of be rallying at that point in the series to get back in and be in a winning position. Then we go to Melbourne on Boxing Day, which I think is going to be probably the decider here as to who wins the series. The reason I say that is I think India will win in Sydney. I think they will win that SCG test match. I think it will probably suit them a little bit better. Australia either haven't played there that well the last few years, or it's been a draw because of rain. So I think the MCG is going to be the decider. And if it is, a little bit of grass, a little bit of seamy conditions that we have seen in previous years, we're going to get a result at the MCG. The weather should be perfect, as it often is in Melbourne. They should get enough to get a result, and I think the Australian bowlers will win them the series in Melbourne. But it could very easily go the other way. I think if Bumrah and Siraj go to town in Melbourne, which they could very well do, I think that is the test that will probably decide the series in terms of who actually wins it. So I think it's going to be a great series. I think it's going to be very close. My predictions, of course, there. Once again, Australia winning at 3-2. Khawaja the leading run scorer in the player of the series, and I think Bumrah the leading wicket taker for India. And I'm going to leave it there today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a bit of a different video. I don't normally do cricket previews, but I figured with the summer just around the corner, or the cricketing test summer around the corner, literally tomorrow, let's get one in. Let's do some predicting. As always, I'm going to be doing a full playthrough of the entire series on Cricket 24. I might start that by streaming some of it tonight, and then you'll see the videos over the next couple of days. You can see that on Twitch TV/Twisty if you really wanted to watch it there. But otherwise, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let me know in the comments down below. And have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the test when it kicks off tomorrow. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.